Hello, my name is Sharlene Whyte and I play Agnes Smith in the film Education that's part of the Small Axe anthology.
They say our children are too loud, too slow, or too lively.
The school system
Has a policy of targeting our children.
there is a deeply rooted cultural bias.
As a collective, we stand a chance.
Hey, Sharlene.
Hi, Samuel, how are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. How's everything today?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Not bad. Fine.
Good.
How are you there? What time is it where you are?
Oh, man, it's like 11:22 and it is raining cats and dogs. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about your new film, or should I say, it's kind of a film, but it's also episode 5 of Small Axe. I'm talking about education. So, I'm just going to tell you, you and your performance and Kenyah and the entire crew, y'all did an amazing job with this episode. It brought me to tears because I have a son and I love him very much. He's only 2, but just the thought, him going into school and the progression of the indifference there and the capability of what could happen is terrifying to me. So I think you guys drove it home with your performance and the message that Steve McQueen brought through it. So I just want to say thank you, first of all. So biggest question for me is, when you first got tapped on for this specific role and who was connected to it and Steve McQueen, what was your first impressions and what did it really mean to you, the character as well as being connected with Steve McQueen through this project?
Well, so you know that I'd known about this project for 6 years before it was made. Yeah, because the casting director, Gary Davey, was just like, I want you to play this role, you are playing this role, you are playing this role, you are playing this role. Be ready, be prepared, be available. So, and known it was Steve McQueen. Of course, we're all excited to work with Steve. Everybody wants to work with Steve. The man is a genius. He's just a genius. So of course you want to be working with him. So when I eventually got in the room and met him, it was just sort of, I just felt like it was surreal, but I knew I was meant to be there. I'm meant to meet this man and we're meant to tell this story together. So when I finally was told what the story was and who she was, I'd gone on for a couple of things, but what she wasn't, I just was thinking, this is incredible. I get to play my ancestors almost, you know what I mean? I get to represent people who I've grown up with, people who brought me into the world, people who've made me the woman I am today. I get to represent them. So it was very, very exciting and an honor.
Yeah. And even just talking about the character Agnes, like the very first thing that I remember from the episode was her just slaving over a stove, trying to get herself up, hyping her family up, still feeling just dreary and tired herself, and nobody eating any of the breakfast she just cooked. Like, I think that Kingsley didn't even, he kind of put some milk in, like the little dumpling, kind of ate it and he just left. And I was kind of like, that's so disrespectful, But it from the time and the era, it makes sense because even with her character, first thing you see her doing is just going and working. You see her going working as a nurse practitioner. You see her going and doing other things, but that stress also laid a toll on her and then also in connection with her family. My biggest question with you, with that situation, even though it's common, even though it happens, how hard was it to play the character? Because sometimes she very much so, the third and second act, she was a big pivotal part of the protagonist progression. But the beginning of it, she was kind of like the antagonist because it's kind of like she didn't have enough time to really deal with her own stresses to know what was happening. And when there was a scene that happened where the person kind of comes and meets her and starts talking to her about the school, and she just really was really apprehensive. And then she took the pamphlet and put it behind the picture. It broke my heart. And I was kind of like, I was wondering, as far as you as an actress, going through both sides of that, like knowing what's happening on the inside and the outside as the actress, how hard was that, playing both sides of that character?
With Agnes, as I say, it's so important for me to make her authentic, right? Yeah. So whatever I needed to do to get to the place where I'm this overworked, overtired, who absolutely loves and adores her family, but can't necessarily show it in a way that they would recognize I'm showing it in the way that I'm able to provide for you and keep this roof over your head. That's how I'm showing you that I love you. So it would, yes, we can all relate to that. I suppose not all of us are in that struggle. No, there are people who are in that struggle where we have to fight for what we believe in, to fight for our families and take on all the extra work and responsibility to make sure that we're providing for our kids. So there was that. And then the other side, sorry, remind me again, because that was a really long question. So
no, it's fine. Like I said, like sometimes, you know, the back half of it, she is fighting for dear life to make a change. And you see that impact, and you see the notion for that. But the early stages of that, she was kind of like, Kingsley was showing all the signs that he needed help. And it's almost like she couldn't help him and she couldn't really deal with it. And that was one of the things that was the hardest for me as a parent, because I know that could easily happen to anybody. But specifically for that era, it had to be hard to play that side of it.
What you have to remember is you're coming from the West Indies, and you think that England is, you've been told that England is the motherland. Streets are paved with gold, okay? So when you go to England, you assume, one would assume that the British school system was superior to the one that you've come from the West Indies. So Agnes probably believed that her son, even if he has got problems, was in safe hands, because he's in my country and he will be looked after, which meant that Agnes can go to work and do the jobs and just leave the schooling to the institution. But sadly, and that's why Agnes is fighting internally to accept it, because it can't be true that this child is not being looked after by the state and by the society in which we've been brought into, in which West Indian people considered themselves English. You know, we have the Queen was part of our heritage. We had the same holidays, we spoke the same language. So for Agnes, it was a struggle. And to play that, I have got a child myself who is a teenager, 17, and who is Black. So I have experienced as well where you think the school is going to look after your child and you are then sadly mistaken that they are not, and you have to go in and fight somebody to make sure that they're looking after him. So a lot of Agnes's struggles, even though literally they don't translate into my world, I can fully comprehend and, you know, empathize with them.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Again, like I said in the beginning, it's probably my last question. I am a father, and just the thought of this segregation or discrimination side of things, and the way that, you know, I remember growing up and going through different test anxieties and different things. Like you're conditioned to go and just get your work done, do what you got to do. But then there's certain situations where my mom or my father would have to go and be like, no, like my son didn't do anything wrong. Like, what is going on with this? And I never understood. I was like, yo, leave it alone. They didn't say anything. But it was kind of like, no, that was really important. Like that was essential to my progression and who the man I ended up becoming, because now I have the same exact pride and feeling for my son. And it's kind of like all the different materials, all of the different things that Steve McQueen sets up in this were essential pivot points that even people today could look at like, you know what, I need to reassess this. You know, I need to reassess and reevaluate what's going on with my son or my daughter. What are they really getting? What are they not getting? And I was wondering for you, the delivery of that message, what did that really truly mean to you? And do you think that this movie or episode can play to that for future generations, especially from a historic standpoint, of course, but future generations as well?
I'm hoping when people see that, and I know already from the feedback that I've received from friends and people who've watched it, that they just really, the story resonated with them, and they can see that perhaps they're experiencing something like that with their own children. And I'm sad that they're still experiencing something like that today, and still having to fight for the right for their child to be looked after properly. And then I've got friends whose children are autistic and that, you know, or on the spectrum, or have some who need extra support at school, who are going through their own struggle. So it was very important for me. And I'm big into education. My son's education is very important to me. And then when I realized that the school was trying to fail him because they'd made up, you know, I think something happens at school when the teachers start making up a narrative for your child, you know, and then you have to go in and dispel it for them quite aggressively. But not everybody is equipped with the time and or have the tools to do that. So I'm hoping that maybe this will inspire people to start to think about how you can better support your child at school, and making sure that your child is receiving the best support and care that they can. Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, because it's really important that our young Black men and our young Black women, but I think particularly our young Black men, are often targeted when they're at school. At a certain age, it happens at a certain age. I don't know what it is. There needs to be a study on it, because they're very beautiful and cute and the most amazing little adorable thing. Till, I don't know, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 10, there's something happens. And I think I would love to, for someone to study that. What is it, and what can we do to change the perception of our young Black men? Yeah,
because I think that specifically right now, mental health is one of the most essential things, because when I saw Kingsley in the bathroom, just kind of like buried himself into the bathtub. And I was like, you know, this kid could easily slip into depression or worse. And when the most heartbreaking thing for me was when he was in the class, and this person was just literally just playing a song to him and not getting anything that he really truly needed. To when you get to the transition, the very end of the movie, where all the family is cultivated together. It was one of the most beautiful things. And honestly, the Kenyah, he is an amazing young actor. I just saw him, I think, in the movie Jingle Jangle. He did a pretty good job in that. So I love that movie. But you guys had amazing chemistry. You guys did an amazing job raising feet with this film. I really appreciate your time. I have no further questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Samuel. That was lovely. Thank you.
We are the small axe, sharpened to cut you down.